You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast, presented by Inside Arkansas, hosted by Andrew Ellis, the #1 podcast on the planet for Arkansas baseball. Appreciate you guys for being here with me today on a live stream edition of the Baumbastic Podcast. It's going to be a contentious one, I'm sure. It's going to be a very intense one, because we got a lot of angry fans out there, and understandably so, coming off of 2 back-to-back losses for the Arkansas Razorbacks to close non-conference. But SEC play just around the corner. Time to turn the page. Time to get ready for the big boys are coming to town. Time to get ready for the real deal here. And on today's show, it's going to be kind of up to you guys in terms of how long we go, what this looks like, and what the vibe is really going to be like. I am going to start off at the top, of course, with my little opening rant. I have to apologize for this. There's going to be a quick pause for like 2 to 3 minutes in the show because I have a grocery delivery that my fiance ordered that apparently was supposed to come a little bit earlier. Now it's coming a little bit later, but we're going to have groceries sitting on my front door. And so we're going to have to clean that up for just a second, but I'll be right back here in that. But basically what I want to talk about here on today's show, which you see here in this little screen over here, is Arkansas good, or are they just pretty good? And of course, we're going to be taking a little bit of a step back and looking at this team from a big picture standpoint. But I think it's a very important question. And right now, obviously, it seems like this team might just be pretty good. They might just be the pretty good pig. I do think, there's many ways to skin a cat. There's many ways to have a really good baseball team. And I do think there are very clear paths in place for this Arkansas team to be a really good baseball team. But of course, you need things to go your way. You need things to, kind of work out a certain way. And there's a formula you have that's going to, you take into each weekend, and that's kind of what gives you the best chance to win. I think this weekend we're going to find out a little bit more about, what Arkansas's formula is and what they're going to need to do to beat good teams. And there's a lot of, again, like I said, different ways this Razorback team could be very good. The ways that it's going to have to happen is, one, you either are going to have this pitching staff, which has been very good so far. I would say they've been good, safely good. Either they're going to have to level up and be like historically good and just completely carry this squad a little bit. Arkansas, I believe they are still undefeated right now in games where they score 5 or more runs. If they score 5 runs, they win. That's pretty much how it works. Maybe this pitching staff will level up to a way where maybe that number is like 2 or 3. And if they score 2 or 3 runs, they'll win. We'll see. I think there's also the other path, which is your bottom of your lineup really starts turning things around, whether that be TJ Pompey starts living up to kind of what he was projected to be. Maybe Nolan Souza, we start to see him finally get hot. I think if both or one of those things happen, it would completely change the picture of this Razorback offense. But I think the other thing that could happen is that your middle of your lineup just has to be extremely good, which, could happen. A lot of these guys are good players. They've proven to be good players. Those guys, if Arkansas is going to take a next step without anything else happening, perhaps those guys leveling up would maybe just be enough for Arkansas to have enough juice to where they would win a ton of games. But ultimately, and in baseball, in this sport, you kind of need all three. You need the pitching to line up. You need the hitting to line up. You need to play good defense, which Arkansas has not done a ton of here lately. But what we're going to do here on today's show is we're going to take a look. Earlier in the year, we did an episode where we basically looked at last year's stats through, I think it was 7 games. This team this year through 7 games, last year's team through 7 games, kind of compared and contrasted, see, okay, this thing was happening last year and this ended up being better. This guy was swinging it well, ended up not going well. We kind of pick and choose a little bit. As the sample size has grown, guys, boy, it looks ugly. And you cannot overstate the last 2 games against Stetson mattered a lot. One, because you lost both of them, and so it kind of restored this negative vibe in the fan base, because I felt like coming out of the UT Arlington game, obviously you had 2 really good performances that weekend. You had a nice midweek win over Oral Roberts, and then you kicked ass in the first 2 games. I think had Arkansas just kicked ass in games 3 and game 4 against Stetson, we'd probably be having a completely different conversation right now. You guys would probably feel completely differently, and some of these numbers that I'm about to put up on the screen might not look as bad as they do right now. So without further ado, I'm going to show you, this is Arkansas's current team stat page, which includes the hitting and the pitching. So you see the team batting average, they're sitting at 296. You see, I guess that's 6 guys right there Kojal, Ruiz, Eloy, New, Helfrich, Robinette, and that doesn't even include Zach Stewart or Carter Rudenbar, who are not yet qualified right now. But that's, at least 6 guys in your lineup who are hitting over 300. All those guys are producing runs at a nice little level, although Reese Robinette and Damian Ruiz haven't hit for a ton of power, so their run production might not be on par with some of these other guys. But you've got a nice little core there of 6 guys who are swinging it pretty well. Carter Rutenbar swung it extremely well this past couple weeks. Zach Stewart is also giving Arkansas a nice little spark offensively, expecting to see him back in the lineup this weekend. But so you've got, it's not all putrid. It's not all disgusting. You've got some guys that are doing some good things, but you see that little group there at the bottom, Souza, Pompey, Brumball. It just kind of is what it is, man. And now the sample size is large enough to where, there's no, he's swinging it well, but the numbers haven't shaken out. And, he's hit a few balls right at some guys. Like when you're 17 games in and you're still below the Mendoza line, it's really hard to play that game. And so as we look forward to things this offense could do better, like those 2 or 3 guys right there, or, maybe end up just being 1 or 2 of them, because I think, obviously one of them is going to wind up not being in this everyday lineup for the most part. Those guys have to get it going, man. They just simply have to be better. And it's okay to say that. It's not, not knocking the players, not, talking trash about them. They know it. We know it. The coaching staff knows it. Those guys have to be better. And then, of course, you look down at the bottom, and it's a lot of really positive developments on the pitching staff. I mean, that group right there, they have that little qualified cutoff line there where it's like if you've reached a certain amount of innings, then you are kind of qualified as one of the top pitchers. That group will be a lot smaller as the sample size grows a little bit. But a lot of Arkansas's top arms are throwing extremely well. The only guys on this team right now who don't have a good ERA are James DeCramer, who had a crazy start the other day, and it seems like he possibly they're a little bit banged, worried about him maybe being banged up. 2 freshmen in Lorenzini and Peyton Lee, both arms that you like, but not necessarily guys that are a huge factor in the weekend mix just yet. And then Cooper Dawson, who did throw a scoreless inning the other day, had his most productive outing. But that is kind of, those are the only guys on the entire team who are not pitching really well. So there are some encouraging signs there from the pitching staff. Now let's just quickly, this is this year's team right now. And you see, I want you to focus real quick on these, the middle line there in the top half where it says totals. That's your team totals. You see the 296 batting average, 471 slugging, 382 on base percentage. Now here's last year where you were hitting at this exact same time through 17 games. You were 16-1 compared to 12-5, but your batting average, nice little tick up there at 313, slugging over 100 points higher at 591. Your on base percentage drastically higher at 438. The slugging is the important part here. You had 36 doubles and 36 home runs at this point. This year, I believe those numbers, let me go back to it real quick. Those numbers are 31 and 22 compared to 36 and 36 last year. So not only Arkansas not getting on base at nearly the same clip at all, the batting average is lower. They're taking way, way, way fewer walks. You're also just not hitting for power, which when we did this exercise a few weeks ago and the numbers were a lot closer in every regard, you just kind of had a lower OBP, but the slugging was pretty similar. The batting average was pretty similar. It's actually gotten a lot worse because last year's group, during the Charlotte series and during the Portland series, put belt to ass. They really took care of business in those games, really padded some stats, which it looked like Arkansas was on pace to do, and then all of a sudden just hit a wall on Sunday and today. But just really, no power that we have seen out of this Arkansas team the last couple of weeks. That's the most concerning part to me. Clearly, I think we can determine this year's offense is not quite on par just from a consistency standpoint, and certainly not from just a 1 through 9 consistency standpoint. But I thought the power was at least going to be in the same ballpark. So far through 4 weeks, it hasn't even been close. And so, Arkansas is going to, we'll see how this thing shakes out. But I think that's been the most concerning part over the last couple of weeks. And then you look down at the pitching staff. Arkansas is better. So they had a 3.02 ERA at this time last year. They got a 2.74 ERA this time this year. The opposing batting average is a lot better this time around. So Arkansas has been better on the mound so far this year than they were last year, but the gap isn't nearly as large as it is in the offensive categories there. And you see kind of some of those individual pieces. Root and Bottleshees were throwing pretty well. Gackle was struggling, and that role turned into a little bit of a little bit of a charade there. And then you don't have Gage Wood for this huge chunk of the season right there. What happened for the 2025 team right after this stretch is you went into SEC play. Zach Root, I think, gave up like 7 runs against Ole Miss. Arkansas lost their first SEC game, wound up battling back to win that series. But Aiden Jimenez really started to emerge as one of Arkansas's top options. You had Carson Wiggins was still closing games for Arkansas at this stage. He had 3 saves at this point last year. There's a few guys that you can look at these numbers and say, oh, that guy ended up being better. That guy ended up being worse. But overall, just comparing the two, and I'll kind of go back to this year's group to kind of show you the side-by-side comparison. There's not a huge amount of separation, if I'm being honest with you. Arkansas has been better on the mound this year, but there is a little bit of a massive gap there offensively. And so to answer the question that we've been asking a lot of, like, is this offense going to be closer to last year or closer to 2024? It ain't even close. They're a lot closer to 2024. And in fact, you guys are going to be blown away by this. So this is this year's stats right here. You see that batting average at 296, all that. You flip it over to 2024. This is the 2024 team entering SEC play. Exact same batting average at 296, slightly lower slugging percentage, but a better on-base percentage. ERA for the team, the exact same. Just kind of unbelievable stuff there. And, I think I still, think this offense is going to be a little bit better than 2024. But entering SEC play, a few of those same concerning trends happening with this squad. And it really is surprising and perplexing. And so we're going to continue further discussing this, and we'll get into it all with you guys and break it down. And I look forward. We're going to get into the chat too. This episode is going to be as long as you guys want it to be. But for now, I gotta go get some groceries. So I'll be back in just a moment. You guys sit here and listen to the. Okay. I hope I don't sound too out of breath. I'm only a little bit of a fat ass and may or may not have sprinted up and down those stairs. But without further ado, let's hop into the chat real quick while I catch my breath. And we will see what the vibe is. See what you guys have to say. Real quick, we got Caleb Morris. Says, 2 questions. Is Zach Stewart expected back this weekend? Where do you stand on who's the odd man out of Pompey, Brumbaugh, and Souza? 1 second. I was trying to make it back because if the video that I played, if it would have expired, it would have come back to this shot, except I just wouldn't have been in it. That I would be out of breath and I would not have Curtis and John to sit here and fill some time. But Zach Stewart is expected back this weekend. I think that at least one of those guys is going to be an odd man out, but I think all 3 are going to continue to play. And so I think it's going to be similar to what they did last weekend, where I guess Souza sat game 1, Brumbaugh sat game 2, Pompey sat game 3. I think all 3 of those guys are going to continue to play. They're also going to continue to sit here and there. I don't think we're anywhere close to like cutting it off to where like one of those guys is done completely. One thing I keep hearing people say is like, TJ Pompey should never pick up a bat again. Carson Brumbaugh should never pick up a bat again. Nolan Souza should just never start again. I've heard all 3 of those things in the last week. It's just not possible. I think all 3 of those guys are going to continue to get opportunities. we'll see if one of those gets hot, but I think you're going to continue to just rotate them around. Okay. There's our guy Ryan here. He says, Ellis, do we feel like the ceiling or the floor has dropped more based on what we expected before the season? I think the floor has dropped more. So this is a funny question because, like, neither of those things have changed whatsoever, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, we all kind of have our vision of what we see or whatever, but, like, the question is, which one is Arkansas closer to? And obviously, they're a lot closer to the floor right now than they are to the ceiling, but neither of those things moved. I mean, am I crazy for that? Like, the concept of a floor and a ceiling is like, your floor is what is the worst possible way you could be as a team, and your ceiling is what is the best possible way. Obviously, Arkansas has been a lot closer, and in fact, this might be the literal floor of where Arkansas is at. But I mean, those aren't like things that move throughout the season. It's just a matter of where are you at. Usually, teams play somewhere in between for most of the time. Arkansas has been a lot, closer offensively to their floor. But overall, like, still, like, I think, a lot of people think the ceiling has dropped a little bit. I mean, I still think this team, the ceiling is still getting back to Omaha and competing for a national championship. That seems like a far cry right now. It doesn't seem likely that they're going to do that. But and I know there are, I'm sure a lot of you are like, I no longer see a path. This team can't make it to Omaha. No, I think that's still very much in play. I think this team, frankly, I mean, we just compared them to the 2024 squad, who stunk at the plate, had a really good Friday night starter, kind of shaky game 2 and game 3 starters. That team won 20 SEC games. Now, that doesn't mean that this team is definitely going to win 20 SEC games just because they've had similar struggles early in the year. But, like, I think, Arkansas's won 18 straight SEC games since 2017 every single year. Until that doesn't happen, it's going to be really hard for me to buy into the notion that Arkansas is just going to be this, like, 500 SEC squad, especially with just the consistency that they've got on the pitching staff. They don't really walk guys. They've got some guys in the middle of the order to where, like, even if Arkansas is not swinging it well, pitchers still have to go through Ryder Helfrich. They still got to go through Camden Kojal. They still got to go through Kahio Aloy. And so even those guys alone will, like, threaten for at least a couple runs a game. I think Arkansas is probably, especially with the way the schedule lines up, if I were to set a realistic expectation, you're probably looking at closer to like that 18 SEC win mark. But with the way it lines up and some of their toughest games being at home, we'll see how obviously they could get swept this weekend, and in which case we're like, okay, now where do we go from here? But if they, like, let's say they beat Mississippi State in a series 2 out of 3, then you'd be looking at the schedule and you'd be like, okay, is Florida better than Mississippi State? Probably not, so that would all of a sudden look like a winnable home series. Let's say they drop a home series to Georgia. How many of those road series are they going to drop, And so I think even though as bad as we, feel about Arkansas right now and as depressed as we are, I think everyone would probably agree that it's more likely they win 19, 20 SEC games than it is that they, like, miss the tournament or anything crazy like that. But there's no doubt about it. Arkansas is playing a lot closer to their floor right now than they are their ceiling. Let's see. I see our guy Hunter Ratio in the chat. Love that. And then Ryan says, am I wrong for being underwhelmed by Gackle as a starter? I feel like he's arguably been our worst starter outside week 1 from Dietz. Well, outside of week 1 from Dietz, Arkansas' starting pitching has been, like, flawless. So, yeah, I'd say that would make sense. But it's like the same thing with Dietz, where it's like, well, if you take away week 1 for Hunter Dietz, he's been great. Well, if you take away week 3 for Gabe Gackle, he's been pretty much perfect. And if you take away last week's start from Colin Fisher, then he's been pretty much perfect. And so I think, Ryan, you probably just don't like Gackle, which is fine, and you don't trust him as a starter, which is perfectly fine. I think there's a lot of people that don't, but I think the way you frame it in your brain has more to do with this than anything else, because I think if you look at Gabe Gackle for what he is, he's a guy that has 4 pitches. And usually when you're talking about guys of, are they a starter, are they a reliever, that's usually where you start is, well, how many pitches does he throw? Like Cole Gibler, for example, if he's going to be a starter, he's going to need to develop a third pitch, which is a big part of why, I think right now they kind of like him in that bullpen role. For Gackle, he's got that already out of the way. He's got 4 legitimate pitches. He got strikeouts with all 4 pitches last week. That's kind of out of the way there. You also look at, can he hold his velocity? He does that perfectly fine. The velocity's been down this year, but it hasn't been dipping throughout his starts. And I remember last year when he pitched in Omaha, he threw 6 innings, 90-something pitches against LSU. He was still touching 97 in his 6th inning. And so he's holding the velocity. He mixes speeds very well. He's got the body type, to where like he doesn't, wear down throughout the start. I think the only case against him being a starter is that, you look back at last year and he had bad results as a starter and then better results as a reliever. And then obviously as a freshman, he was very good as a reliever. When you talk to people inside the program, they all seem to say that Gackle just got better throughout the year last year. Like he started the year just not great and then just got better and better and better. It happened to coincide with they ended up making a move. They feel like he made adjustments and just got better. And the evidence is in the results. Like what he did in Omaha, he came out of the bullpen, but he threw 6 innings. That's what you ask your starting pitchers to do, and he did it perfectly fine. I think that, there's obviously a mental shift that a guy makes whenever he's coming out of the bullpen or coming out of starting a game. But I think for Gackle, it really comes down to, one, he's got to get back to the confidence, and the stuff has to uptick a little bit. I mean, the stuff's been just kind of okay so far, but he also didn't throw much this offseason, was banged up over Christmas break. We knew he was kind of a step behind him. He went into opening day, and they were like, oh, we're only going to throw him 50 to 60 pitches. They wound up throwing him 73 or whatever, but like even going back to the start of the season, he had not thrown much leading up to that start, and so it makes sense a little bit. I'd be surprised if the velocity didn't tick up a little bit, but yeah, I think by the way, he also is coming off an outing where he literally went 6 innings scoreless. And he had a couple guys reach base against him, but I think it was like all singles. Like he didn't really give up much hard contact. I think sometimes guys just have to be better. And sometimes guys just have to make their own adjustments. It's not always about let's change their role and ask them to do something different. And in which case, if you're going to take Gackle out of the rotation, one, they've already said they're not doing that. But two, then you would have to take someone out of the bullpen and move them into a starting role, which I'm sure everyone would say, oh, just make Cole Gibbler. He's been great. Well, now you're taking your best reliever and taking him out of his role. So now you got to move someone to that role. And then whoever you're moving to that role, you're taking them out of another role. And so it's like, I just feel like taking Gackle out of the rotation would just create an issue that you don't have. I would also point out for you, I know Gackle's, he's danced around a lot of trouble in a lot of these starts, but so far this season, he has a 2.61 ERA with 27 strikeouts in 21 innings. So, like, I don't know if now, especially coming off of a 6-inning scoreless start, if that's the time to where we should be making a move with Gabe Gackle. But whatever. Okay, let's see. I also and again, like it's also like these guys are like racehorses a little bit. And, I mentioned Gackle kind of working his way up because he didn't throw much in the offseason. Now he's kind of worked his way up. And I feel like he was better last week than he was the week before. These guys are like racehorses where you want them to peak when it's derby season. And it ain't derby season just yet. I do want to see Gabe Gackle bring it this weekend. And for me, it comes back to the mental framing of it. Because I think with Gackle, he runs into some trouble sometimes where it's like he's not letting it all out there. I think the narrative out there publicly is actually affecting Gackle in the way that he performs, because I think he has this in his brain of like, oh, I've got to be a starter versus a reliever, which I know is a real thing, but it's really not. Like you really just go out there and pitch. Like what he did against LSU in the College World Series last year, that is what we are asking him to do. And when he went in to start that game, he didn't know he was going 6 innings. He just knew I was coming into a high leverage situation. Let me let it eat. And he let it eat for 95 pitches, and he was dominant against the best team in the country. And so I think he maybe is sometimes throwing at 80%, throwing at 85%. And I understand you can't be max effort every pitch, but I think if he would trust himself and trust his stuff and trust, what he's capable of, I think that would serve him well. Let's see, what else did he have to say? Ryan says, many of our bullpen arms have pitched well, and due to a lot of damage against starters happened in the 5 and later. Do you think we should use our starters as 4-5 inning guys and go to the pen after 5? I'm trying to figure out what this means. Due to a lot of damage against starters happen in the 5 and later. So I'm trying to think of an example because Gackle gave up a 2-run home run in the 6th inning of that UT Arlington game. I don't remember another example of a pitcher giving up a run after the 5th inning. Now there haven't been that many outings of that. Like I think Fisher got blown up in the 4th inning the other day. Dietz got blown up, and I guess it was the 1st inning against TCU. He got blown up in his 3rd or 4th inning there as well. That's another part of the conversation that like doesn't make sense to me. Is like it's not like Gackle is throwing out there and he's throwing great for 3 or 4 innings and then running out of gas. If that were happening, then I would be down to hear that conversation. But that's usually he runs into trouble early. His worst inning against Oklahoma State was his 1st inning. So yeah, I don't really know what that's a reference to, but no, I think you, in fact, you're gonna, as we get deeper into the season, you're gonna lean on your starters a little bit more. Those guys have been on pitch counts and they've been kind of being conservative about it. I think you maybe lean on them a little bit more. Although, like I was saying for Gackle, if he ends up throwing 5 innings and it takes him 92 pitches and he has to kind of just leave it all out there, if there's a 0 or a 1 on the scoreboard, I'll be completely fine with that. But no, I think you just kind of play it by ear. That's usually what happens in these situations is, if the guy's through 5 innings and he's thrown 68 pitches and he's only allowed 2 hits, he's probably going to get a 6th inning. If he's through 5 innings and he's got 97 pitches and he's given up 3 runs, well, then that's a little bit different. And so I think it's kind of a situation-dependent thing. Like, I don't think you go into the weekend being like, oh, yeah, we're only going to throw this guy 4-5 no matter what. I think it'll be all right. Big Donnelly says, we look bad at the plate. I know the numbers are going to tell a different story, but the optics of the untimely hitting doesn't look good either. Well, the good news for you is that the numbers do not tell a different story. The numbers do tell you that Arkansas is pretty average at the plate. In fact, we went through the numbers a little bit earlier. Yeah, the numbers are pretty bad across the board. Like Arkansas is near the bottom of the SEC in most hitting categories. Specifically, on base percentage is probably the one that jumps out to me because I can live with a mediocre batting average if you're hitting for power and getting walked a ton. Arkansas is actually hitting for an okay average. They just don't get walked and don't hit for power, which is the worst situation ever, and which is why you guys have heard me talk about how batting average can be very overrated at times. Look no further than this year's Arkansas team. Their batting average is right at 300, just about. So on paper, that's supposed to be good. But if you look at the actual numbers in terms of runs scored, slugging, on base, OPS, all these things, none of them say that Arkansas is good at the plate. Let's see. And so, let's see. I'm seeing a lot of Fire Nate, TJ Pompey sucks. That's what I'm hearing a lot of. Hey, I'm a little disappointed, I got to be honest. I was hoping that we would have, real conversations about, hey, what do you think about this? Or, what can we do to fix this? But it seems like the chat today is more just kind of like people being upset, which again, completely understand why you're upset. I mean, Arkansas played like dog shit the last 2 games. They've been very average so far to start this season. Let's see. Butcher Boy. I had a good time meeting Butcher Boy the other day. He says, I would love to have been a fly on the wall during practice and meetings this week. Dave was not happy in that Monday presser. No, he was not, which actually leads me to, what I kind of want to talk about a little bit, which is, we always view these things like they're like predetermined outcomes, and we look at a team and we say, oh, this team sucks. They're not going to do it. And we've seen a lot of people already do that about Arkansas through 4 weeks of they see it and they're like, this team, they don't have it. They don't have it. And if NCAA tournament comes around for NCAA basketball, I remember in November, December, a lot of people were like, this team, they just don't have it. Sometimes, you have to give these guys an opportunity to respond. And that's ultimately what this week is going to be all about. Because, Monday's game happened. It got done at about 3 p.m. And that's when this Dave press conference that you're referencing happened. And he was not a happy camper. And he said specifically, we got some guys that are new that have either coming from high school or other programs. They need to figure out why, or they need to figure out this is not the way we do things. This is not how we do things here. And that's very interesting to me. And so I would also like to be a fly on the wall of what this week of practice has been like, what these conversations have been like, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the team responds. we can, we're living in this moment, which is why we looked at the stats for the season to this point and why it's, there's no real debate to be had. Arkansas has not been playing at a high level just yet. They have not played their best baseball in any way, shape, or form. You go out there and play your best baseball against Mississippi State, next week's live stream is going to have a very different tone. And so I do want to give the guys that opportunity to respond. And, conversations I have with different people in and around the program, like they're not like completely disheartened and like, oh man, we're screwed. What are we going to do? They know what's going on. They know what they need to do better. They know they need to bring it. They know there's a lot of pressure. And let's just find out what these dudes are all about, because right now the results are what they are and they're pretty average. But I don't think anyone's going to, if Arkansas ends up going 20-10 in SEC play, I don't think we're going to look back and be like, I know they were really good against high-level competition, but that Stetson series, I don't think so. But right now the Stetson series is all we have to go off of because the most recent thing that happened. Let's see. Big Donnelly says, this team just doesn't have the kill instinct to just go rip someone's heart out and then carry it around the bases. Looks like a lot of dudes trying to make a name, then win for the pig. So, listen, I've also been critical of kind of, the team's ability to respond to adversity and all that. Can we agree that, we only feel this way because they haven't played well? You know what I mean? Sometimes it really is that simple. And I had somebody tweet at me the other day that was like, man, this team, they don't fight. They don't show any fight. And I'm just like, are they not showing fight or are they just playing poorly? You know what I mean? I don't know if this is necessarily a therapy thing that we need to get these guys in and need to develop some killer instinct. Cause a lot of the players on this team were on last year's team. Do you think Camden Kojal, he was like a tough SOB last year and he's just not this year? You think Ryder Helfrich was tough as nails last year and he's just not this year? I don't know, man. Let's see. My guy L, he says, it seems Nate can only get lucky every few portal seasons. Blame it on more on NIL than development. So I don't know. I think, and I said this going into last season, that I think if you were going to criticize Nate Thompson coming out of 2024, it would be the evaluation side of it more so than anything else. In terms of NIL, Arkansas is not leading the country by any means, but Arkansas's got more than enough NIL to field a really good baseball team. I know that because they literally just did it last year. And also, TJ Pompey struggling is not due to NIL. They spent NIL to get TJ Pompey. They spent some time, letting him, they dedicated resources to him. He just isn't playing well. And so it's I don't, as much as Arkansas, everyone could improve their NIL situation. I don't know, man. I don't buy the NIL excuse that I think a lot of people have been doing it. I see Butcher Boy. Butcher Boy says, Andrew ain't that fat. I can vouch. He's about half my size. No, I'm not that fat, but I'm not the skinniest bastard of all time. But I definitely underestimated how out of breath I would be after sprinting downstairs, sprinting upstairs, throwing groceries in the freezer, trying to do it all quickly. I should have just let the music play for a little while. Let's see. Camo Gang, who I think I met the other day, he says, team looks small. I don't see no muscles popping out. Jerseys are all loose, pants loose, no forearm veins popping at the plate. No big. Okay. I really okay. We gotta at some point realize that we are frustrated by the way Arkansas baseball is playing. So we are just outright making things up. Because if there's one thing I feel like this team does have, it is that get off the bus factor of dudes that look big. Ryder Helfrich is I'd say Arkansas's best player. He doesn't look small in his uniform. That's a big dude. Kahio Aloy has put on 10, 15 pounds. That is a massive guy. He is a very physically imposing figure at the plate. Camden Kojal's not a tall guy. He's only 5'8", 5'9", but he's 5'9", 210. He's built like Barry Sanders, bro. That's a big guy. Nolan Souza is 6'3", 220. Looks like he could be fill in the A gap as a linebacker, bro. Like Nolan Sousa's a big guy. I think that sometimes, obviously when your team's not playing well, you always can find things to point out, but it's like, I mean, shit, bro. We're just outright making shit up. I mean, TJ Pompey, he might be the worst player on the team so far. He's 6'4", 220. Yeah, that's a big guy. Carson Brumbaugh, he's been struggling. He's 6'3", 225. Like, these are big guys. Just because they're struggling doesn't mean we have to just outright make something up here. Let's see. Born to be a Hog says, got to do something other than Pompey and Brumbaugh. Can Sousa play short? Stewart needs to be DH permanently. If Helfrich slumps with the bat or is tired, play Rudenbar. Sousa can play short, and he has played short at Arkansas. Going into the season, they were very open about it that they didn't feel like his arm was quite ready. And I think Dave even said going into the season, he was like, yeah, we'll play him at second, no problem. We could maybe play him at third, but short is probably, I don't know if they feel confident about him making that throw from the 6-hole. And then since the season started, we've seen him play second. We've seen him play a lot of third. I think he's done a great job at third base. But I don't know where they feel with his arm, and it's if it's close to 100% just yet. But I think he'll probably get some reps there. But ultimately, I think Brumbaugh is that's why Brumbaugh, that's his best path to the lineup, is because he's the best shortstop out of all these guys. And if it really is just him that is struggling, Arkansas will gladly live with having their 9-hole shortstop who plays pretty good defense, although he hasn't played good defense here lately. If he's playing good defense, I think Brumbaugh is still going to have a chance to stay in there. But, yeah, I don't know, man. But that's why I kind of come back to, it's like where we see TJ Pompey and we're like, oh, never play that guy. We see Carson Brumbaugh, never play that guy. I'll see Sousa, never play that guy. Well, someone's got to play, unless you just want to. In fact, I did have somebody ask on the Discord yesterday if they should consider playing Tyler Holland at third base or shortstop. And I think they should consider it. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you did see him, maybe in a midweek situation or something. Tyler Holland's a really good, versatile defender who can play some short, can play some third, can play some second. I think he's even gotten some reps at first base. And he swung it really well in the scrimmages leading up to the season. Now, do I think he is going to be a better bat than, Sousa or Pompey? And I know Sousa and Pompey aren't swinging it well right now, but that's a little bit of a tough sell for me. I think he hit like 180 in the California League or something like that, maybe 190. I don't know if I'm shortchanging him a little bit, but outside of like a couple scrimmages where he, jumped on some pitches against guys that he had seen before, I don't know if I necessarily buy that Tyler Holland is going to be a huge upgrade offensively from these guys. Defensively, I think he could definitely do the job, but I don't know. We shall see. Gage wants to know, could Rutenbar play third? Rutenbar is a good athlete. I've never seen him play third base. I've seen him play outfield, which he started a couple games in the outfield just the other day. I've seen him catch, and he's, getting better at catcher. I think he's a better hitter than he is a fielder so far. But he's getting a little bit better at catcher, starting to feel things out a little bit. I think that what could be very interesting is if Rutenbar, if they feel comfortable with him catching, Helfrich is the one that I think you could bounce around. One, because he's a great athlete, could easily, athletically, Ryder Helfrich could easily play third base. I don't know if he has any history doing it. I don't know if he's ever taken ground balls there, but athletically could certainly do it. I also think he could play first base. Big Country, Reese Robinette, I know for a fact can play third base because I've seen him do it, and I've seen him do it at a pretty solid level. So I think that would maybe be the route to mixing things up. And so for Rutenbar, maybe that's what they do. Maybe they do try and get him to play first base, because I think Robinette safely, like, they would feel very comfortable with him playing third base. It's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I think the way it sounds like they're going to have to get Rutenbar in there. They're going to have to keep him in there. Now I don't know how you do that and keep Zach Stewart, in the lineup. It's going to be very interesting, but I don't know. We shall see. And then Ryan wants to know, is Gackle completely healthy? His velo seems down. I know Bubba has mentioned it several times in Gackle's last start. So okay, I'm gonna give this spiel one more time. Gackle over Christmas break suffered a foot injury, and that foot injury I don't believe is still hindering him. But what that foot injury did was it affected his throwing schedule, because when your foot's injured, you're not able to throw bullpens. You're not able to ramp up. And so in the offseason, he didn't throw at all in the fall. He didn't pitch against live hitters at all. So he goes from not throwing at all in the fall, where they were trying to get him some rest and kind of had him on a delayed throwing program, thinking it would have him ready to roll for the season. Well, then he injured his foot. So then even the delayed throwing program got delayed even further. And so it's not that he's like still banged up or that like the foot's bothering him, although it was a real foot injury. And so it was something that they had to deal with. And I think he's good from the injury standpoint, but he hasn't, it's tough to just go from not throwing at all in, the month, on January 1st to starting a game in Arlington. And so they kind of had to accelerate his ramp up process, which I think has kind of been taken into the season. And so, yeah, and we've talked about that every week. And I wish people would just listen, because we've been talking about this every week. That's why the stuff has been just kind of okay. And I expect it to continue to tick up. And he's shown that it's in there. Like, he's touched 96 this year. Last week he touched 95 a few times, which is a little bit up from the 92, 93 he was the couple weeks before. And so, listen, will he, finish the year throwing 102? I don't know, but we've seen Gackle touch 98, even going back to his freshman year. We saw him touch 97, 98 down the stretch last year. I have no reason to believe that he has just lost that ability completely, but you gotta ramp him up a little bit. And so we're kind of seeing that ramp up process in real time. Let's see. Okay, so Fads by 21 says, if the numbers say that, why can't we fire Nate Thompson and get an above average hitting coach? Because they just came off a year where they had the number one offense in the SEC, which, again, this is not my way of saying that Nate Thompson is like a great hitting coach, but last year's offense is proof that your hitting coach isn't necessarily the end-all be-all. Like, you can have a guy who is just an okay hitting coach, but if you get the right guys in here, you bring in some good transfers, you have some older guys in your program that develop under said hitting coach, you can be one of the best offenses in the country. And so last year's, and it's like when Coach Cal says, you told on yourself. He said that to Malik Ewan. You told on yourself because now you've shown me how good you can be. And that's what I've been trying to articulate for a while now, is like, Arkansas has not changed their offensive philosophy from last year to this year. Just like they didn't change it from 2024 to 2025. Just like in 2021, it didn't change going into 2022. The results vary a little bit, and there's always going to be a little bit of fluctuation in baseball. But really, it's about, do you have good hitters? Because if you have good hitters, you're going to have a good lineup. Last year, Arkansas had some good hitters. And so, frankly, if I think we were going to fire Nate Thompson for anything, it'd probably be for, how did you whiff in the portal this year? How did you just not get anyone on the left side of the infield that you feel like is a legitimate starter? And now they did get Dylan Grego, a kid from, was it Ball State that Dylan Grego was from? He ends up signing. That was a tough break, but also one that you had to be prepared for. I don't know. I'm going to stop responding to Nate Thompson comments, honestly. And it's not because I think Nate Thompson's like the greatest hitting coach of all time, but it's like there's so much more to the puzzle than the hitting coach, especially in baseball alone. Like in football, if your defense is consistently out of position and constantly getting out schemed, that would be one thing where you're like, oh man, well, our defensive coordinator must be an issue. In baseball, when a baseball game happens, the hitting coach's job pretty much becomes moot. Like you're having conversations in the dugout a little bit. At that point, it's time for the guys to go out there and, they're facing a pitcher that's throwing the ball really well. And that's what happens. It's just a matter of, can they go up there and get the job done? I don't know, man. I think a lot of you guys know this. I think you just kind of, like to be upset here, or just like to spin very it's like a very simple minded narrative. I feel like there's a lot more to the puzzle here. Ryan says, unless you are mad at DBH and Nate for picking the wrong players, your anger toward them is misplaced. They are teaching the same things they teach every year. No, this is 100% spot on. That's kind of that's been my stance all along, is like, what is it that you think Arkansas, you think they fundamentally changed what they're doing as a program, year to year? Like, you think they were doing everything right last year and now they're doing everything wrong? They've had the same staff in place for 10 years. And during that 10 years, we've seen literally some of the best offenses Arkansas has ever had. Like last year's offense on paper was the best offense in school history. 2018 and 2019, Nate's first 2 years, those were two of the best offenses in school history. 2021, I believe they were top 10 in program history in terms of runs per game. 2025, top 10 in program history in runs per game. And so it's like we've seen how good things can be when you get the right pieces in here with this staff. We've also seen in 2024, you could wind up with just kind of an average lineup. We saw in 2023, you can wind up with just an average pitching staff, even under Matt Hobbs, who is such a great pitching coach. We all know that. The 2023 pitching staff was mediocre, and they got their ass shelled in the postseason. It wasn't because Matt Hobbs sucks all of a sudden. It's, just that year. You had some injuries. You had some guys that stepped into different roles, some freshmen that you kind of had to throw out there, and it just didn't work out. Let's see. Spec Fisher says, so is Landon Schaefer on the 34-man roster, or is he being redshirted this year? With the problems we have seen between Pompey and Brumbaugh, I figured they would give him a chance if he wasn't a redshirt. So again, and this happened in every live stream where we get a question about Landon Schaefer, because obviously he was, a huge recruit. He's from Fayetteville. There's a lot of fans that know him. Schaefer's almost certainly redshirting this year. He also doesn't play the infield anymore. Like, ever since he got to campus, I think he played a little bit of third base, but he's been playing center field for the better part of like 4 months. And so if Landon Schaefer were going to play, it would probably be in the outfield, where I think there's about 5 or 6 guys over him. I also think in the freshman class, like, I think Rutenbar's over him. I think obviously Brumbaugh's over him. I think Alexander Peck would also get a nod before him. And so, and I don't say that to like be mean to Landon Schaefer or anything. It's just like, I think everyone's kind of like holding their breath, waiting for him to get in. And I don't have any indication that is on the cusp of happening here. And then Butcher Boy says if we only had 1 or 2 losses, we would not be wallowing in self-pity and magnifying any and every issue. We would overlook them all and be stoked for conference play. Yeah, I mean, honestly, and like, I know it's tough to say, well, if the results were different, we'd feel differently, but like, truly, because like on Saturday, after Arkansas won, I guess, what was it? Was it 11-0 or 11-1 Saturday or something, or 13-1 Saturday? I really did, like, I'd kind of like didn't have that many issues. I was kind of like, okay, they're at least trending in the right direction, specifically because since that Friday night loss against UT Arlington, you felt like they leveled up a little bit. Like, you felt like they took that, wore that L, sat on it for a little bit, and then leveled up. And so then after that, for the 4 games, like, they were playing good baseball. I was kind of content to just say, all right, this is just, they've kind of leveled up and now they're going to move forward. The fact that they kind of reverted back to some of those same issues on Sunday and Monday, that is new information that we've been presented with, to where now we're like, damn, what is it that we expect of this team? But I just think I think it's crazy that, we can go game to game where it's like people, you lose a game and now all of a sudden people genuinely, I mean, I've seen several people like genuinely questioning if this Arkansas team is going to make the NCAA tournament, which, like, if they end up losing a ton of games and don't make it, we'll gladly, cover it here on this podcast. But it's like, that would be pretty, like, that would mean that a lot of things went wrong. That would mean you probably had a few major injuries in the middle of your lineup. That would mean all of your pitchers would have to really underachieve. And so if it happens, I'll be the first one here reporting and being like, holy shit, man, Arkansas sucks, man. They just completely missed a tournament. But I don't think people really realize like how big of a deal that would be. Like, if that's what you really think is happening here, then damn, like you really think this is like one of the biggest stories in the country, which I just don't think is necessarily happening just yet. In fact, I think it's much more likely that they're a national seed than it is that they missed the tournament. But we shall see. And so Big Donnelly says, I hope they prove me wrong, but it looks like the portal dudes were expected to take a leap this season, and they haven't performed as expected. I would say that Micah New and Damian Ruiz have been pretty much what they were supposed to be. And now Micah New got off to a little bit of a slow start, but I mean, you look at Micah New's stats right now. He's hitting .333. He's slugging .530. He has only drawn 4 walks, but I mean, he's got 3 home runs, 4 doubles. He's stolen 5 bases as well. He's been really good in center field. I think Micah New's been pretty much exactly what he was supposed to be. You look at Damian Ruiz, and you look at, I mean, he's hitting .340. Doesn't have a ton of power. He's only slugging .383. He's only got 2 doubles. But his on-base percentage is .467. He's drawn 10 walks, 2 hit by pitches. He's the only guy in the lineup with under 10 strikeouts so far. He's also 6 of 7 on stolen bases, playing good defense out there in left field. Like, I think he's kind of been exactly what Arkansas thought he was supposed to be. A very adequate replacement out there in left field. It's really just TJ Pompey. Those are the three big, and Zach Stewart, by the way, who has outperformed expectations, I would say, because, we came into the season not even knowing if Zach Stewart was, going to be in the everyday lineup. In fact, most of us didn't expect him to be, and he wasn't at the start. But, here he is now coming on strong. And so really, for the most part, they've got like, everyone on this team is kind of who they're supposed to be. Same with some of the returners in the lineup. You just have a very glaring hole down there, third base and shortstop. And so Pompey and Brumball have not been how they're supposed to be, but it's not like they just whiffed on the portal guys. Yes. And then Butcher Boy says, I can't remember the name, but how impactful would it be to have that kid that got injured preseason, Brenton Clark? And yeah, a few people got that. It would have definitely helped, although I just genuinely don't know what they would have done had he been healthy. Because, you think about it, like, Arkansas doesn't have an issue in the outfield. In fact, they've got 4 guys that they would like, Matt, really 5 guys if you count Rudenbar, because, like, Ruiz has been good, New has been good, Kahil Aloy's been good, Zach Stewart has been good, and now Carter Rudenbar is playing in right field, and he looks pretty good. So it's like adding Brenton Clark would actually just cause, maybe some issues where maybe then they would explore. I know Zach Stewart, they thought about playing him at first base in the fall. I think maybe that would have been something they could have explored. But, getting another bat in the lineup certainly would have helped. Let's see. Yeah, Gage wants to know, when was the last time Miss State has won a series in Fayetteville? I can't remember the last time. So let's see. 2017, they did not. 2019, they did not. 2022, did they play there? They did not. Yeah. Did they play Arkansas? Yeah, 2024, they played a series there. They did not. I would have to go back. I really can't remember anything. Like, I was around for it, but like off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you anything pre 2017. But yeah, it's been a nice little stretch Arkansas's had against Mississippi State in Fayetteville for sure. Let's see. The boy says, aren't starters velos usually a tick down? Conceptually speaking, like if you're, throwing 99 out of the bullpen, you come in as a starter, you're probably going to, throw a little bit less. I would also say that, like, just this time of year, like, you're never going to hit the ground running. Like, you never would start the season, especially in college baseball. Now, it does help that they've added an extra week or two to where they can help these guys ramp up, which Gackle was hurt for a little bit of that. But, like, you rarely see starters start the year throwing the hardest they normally do. And so, yeah, guys usually kind of ramp up throughout the season a little bit. Let's see. Tucker Juris Doc says Kojal out of the approach at the plate when he said they hunt the bottom of the baseball. I don't know if he meant that as their main / only approach, but the swings I see sure seems like it. That's not like an Arkansas specific thing. There's a lot of terminology that hitting coaches use and stuff that may sound like foreign stuff to us, but that's not like an Arkansas specific thing. That's a specific like hitting type of thing, because a baseball. So if you're throwing a baseball from, if you're 6'4" and you're throwing a baseball from up here, it is going down most. And that's why some guys that have, a fastball, they always say it stays on plane. That means it's staying flatter. And so it looks like it's rising, but really it's just staying flat. If you're throwing a baseball from your 6'4" and you're throwing a baseball from up here, it's going down. Plus the mound is, up, elevated a little bit, 60 feet 6 inches, and you got a little bump. It is coming down. And so if you're hunting the bottom of the baseball, that means as the baseball's coming, you're squaring it up. That was not Cam Kojal's way of saying, yeah, we're looking to pop the baseball up. I promise you that. I can promise you that. Butcher Boy wants to know, where can Peck play besides first? Honestly, first is a spot he's like worst at, which we've seen a little bit. Like, he's only been playing first base for a few weeks. He was playing third base and shortstop in the fall and looked pretty solid at those. I thought he was pretty good at third base. Now they're kind of, they felt like first base was maybe the best spot for him. He's kind of de facto backup first baseman. But yeah, I think anywhere in the infield, really, third base, shortstop, second base, he can handle all those just fine. He handles them better than first base, but I guess that's where they think maybe his future is. I don't know. We shall see. Gage says, Andrew, what did you think of Jordan Martin's outing? I personally thought he looked pretty good. Yeah, he looked awesome. I think he looked awesome. I think he touched 94 on the final pitch that he threw, and I think he's going to continue to get some more opportunities, mostly in probably in midweek games. But no, yeah, I think Jordan Martin's a very talented arm. The upside is through the roof with that kid. Like, as good as he is right now, and he is pretty good, like there's a lot more left in the tank for him. I think Jordan Martin is a very interesting arm on this roster, and really I like that whole freshman class, man. Like, I like Lorenzini. Brissy's undeniably good. I think Peyton Lee's going to have a chance to be pretty good. I think Luke Cornelison is going to have a chance. Yeah, I think Jordan Martin fits right in there with those guys, and I hope they're able to keep all these guys around and continue to give them some opportunities. And who knows, we might get into April, May, and we might find out these guys are ready to roll. But Arkansas's also got a lot of veterans in the bump that are going to be hard to steal innings from. The boy says, I personally feel this offense will appear much better when Ryder and Aloy stop missing as many pitches. Yeah, so I'm glad you said this, because obviously, big picture, we think about this offense like we're not really worried about Ryder or Cahillo, because those guys are studs. Their averages are good so far right now. But I felt like this past weekend was the first time that I really felt the top / middle of the order was affected by the bottom half, where you could almost feel those guys pressing a little bit. I think Ryder struck out 3 times in the Monday game, and Ryder has been, he's a fair amount of swing and miss guy overall. But like, I thought that Ryder was just was like you said, chasing a few pitches out of the zone. And Cahillo, who has been better, in fact, early in the year, I think it took him like a while before he started really striking out. I felt like Cahillo was, showing off a little bit more maturity, a little bit more patience at the plate. But lately, Cahillo's not only been missing, swinging, going out of the zone a little bit. I feel like he's been, you get let's say it's a 1-0 count, and you get a fastball that's on the outside corner. Like, I would, most people would argue you should take that pitch. Even if it is a strike, you would much rather take that strike rather than put a ball in play that you can't really square up, and then it ends up being soft contact, which there was a question earlier about, like, why do we take so many strikes? That is not even close to Arkansas's biggest issue. In fact, I wish Arkansas would take more early in the counts whenever you're ahead, when you're in the advantage situations, rather than popping up or rather than grounding out or whatever. Because, Arkansas only struck out 5 times the other day, but they hit a lot of weak ground balls. They had a lot of weak pop flies, and a lot of them came when they were ahead in the count. It's like, damn, like, show off a little bit more patience, make that hitter work a little bit. But yes, Sunday and Monday, I felt like Arkansas's older guys, Camden Kojal, by the way, would be included in this. You could tell they were pressing a little bit, which a lot of guys press at the plate, but like, you could tell it almost felt like they knew, if we don't get a hit right here, we're probably going to be in trouble here. And so, I think that's definitely going to be interesting. And then, Butcher Boy pointed out that Ryder does have 18 walks, so his vision isn't terrible. But yeah, I think in this past weekend, I think was his worst weekend so far at the plate. And so, it's very, very something they definitely need to be a little bit worried about. Jeff here says, we have always had trouble with soft pitching, which, as crazy as it sounds, is not completely inaccurate. There's always a little bit of an adjustment period, because, you're leading up to the season and you're facing your own pitching staff, which is a lot of guys that are throwing mid-90s. Think about Arkansas. If you go to a practice at Arkansas, it's very possible you face, Gackle, Kersher, Dossett, McIlvain, whoever. Like, that's all guys that are throwing mid to high 90s. Now, Arkansas's got a couple of guys who can, soft toss it around. Parker Coyle's not necessarily breaking the radar gun or anything like that. Some of the freshmen will kind of be in that 90-91 range. But, there's always kind of a little bit of an adjustment period, especially for an Arkansas team that their lineup has been overly aggressive. Way too aggressive. When you face a guy that's throwing 88, 89, that's not really throwing the ball over the plate, those guys are like built in a lab for Arkansas to have some of those quick ground outs, which Jeff, makes me a little bit concerned. And Curtis brought this up the other day on Inside Arkansas Live. That's the type of team you're going to face, in a regional. Those 3 and 4 seeds in your regional are probably going to be mid-major guys that have right-handed pitchers that are going to throw 90-91. It is very interesting. Now, I don't necessarily view that and say, okay, they're gonna crush this weekend against guys that are throwing mid-90s from Mississippi State. But I do think there's a little bit something to that, especially when you're in a little bit of a funk offensively and you're like trying to get your way out of it. I think you can get yourself out a lot. And Butcher Boy says the wind at Baum has been keeping a lot of balls in the park as well. Once we get the more spring summer wind, it will help. This is accurate for sure. Now, would it have made enough difference to where the numbers would have been all, flipped around and they would be top 5 in the SEC and everything? Probably not. But you could probably point to like 8 or 9 batted balls that might have been home runs that weren't. Let's see. And then Butcher Boy says, let's shift positive for a minute. Who is the most impressive so far this year? One pitcher, one position player. So I'm going to go with Ethan McIlvain for the pitcher. And the reason I'm going to go with that is because, one, he hasn't given up a run. So it's tough to beat that. He's gone 7 2/3, 2 hits, 2 walks, 13 strikeouts. Opponents are hitting 0.77 against him. He's been outstanding. And not that we didn't expect him to be good. He's a big transfer coming out of Vandy. I think he was a guy that, we talked about as maybe like a setup option and a guy that could help you on the weekend. I don't know if I necessarily viewed him as the for sure closer of this team, which he's not. Cole Gibler is Arkansas's number 1 guy there, but like McIlvain now looks like a guy where it's like you have to find more opportunities for him. You have to find more innings for him, and now they started to kind of force him into that weekend mix. We saw him pitch the final couple innings the other day, although Arkansas was losing. I think Ethan McIlvain's been really impressive, and I think he's going to make a lot of money this summer. In terms of position players, Zach Stewart to me has been very impressive, just because he's been so much better than I guess I thought he was going to be, and not that I didn't think he was good, but he was just kind of okay at Missouri State last year. He had a really good sophomore year, but then was just kind of okay at Missouri State, and then was just kind of okay in the fall and spring leading up to the season. But he's been outstanding. I've been really impressed with him, and Arkansas certainly needs him back in that lineup. Outside of that, man, it's hard to look past Kojal. Kojal's been – he's slugging 750, and he's hitting 359. He's getting on-base percentage is 440. I'd say he's definitely been Arkansas's best hitter. But in terms of the most impressive, I'm thinking of guys who outperformed what my expectations might have been. And, that's very impressive. Pooh Bear says 24/7 says they won 2 out of 3 games for the series in 2018 at Baum. That is inaccurate information. I just know that off the top of my head because I remember in 2018 they didn't play at Baum. They played in Starkville against a pretty average Mississippi State team at the time, and they got swept. Arkansas got swept at Duty Noble in 2018, which in the moment felt like a disaster. Felt like the world is ending type of thing. I think Matt Cronin blew a save in that series. Campbell got shelled in his start and just did not go well for Arkansas. But that was at Starkville in Duty Noble, and that Mississippi State team wound up going to the College World Series kind of out of nowhere. And they ended up having a chance to they beat Oregon State in the first game and then wound up dropping 2 to Oregon State. And then, of course, Oregon State wound up beating Arkansas. But Mississippi State could have rewritten the course of history. Very interesting. All righty. Let's see. Ooh, we got a super chat here from Briley. She says, apologies if you already said this. If you're DVH, what does your weekend lineup look like, Andrew? So I would say it's probably going to be, it's not going to be the same lineup all 3 games. But, okay, let's go. Damian Ruiz at the top. He's going to start in left field. We'll go Camden Kojal at second base. He's going to hit second. We'll go Ryder Helfrich at catcher. We will go – let's go – all right, so we got that's a righty. You got right, left, right. Let's go Zach Stewart at either right field or DH, whichever one you want to do it. Then I'm going to go Kahil Valoy at right field or DH, whichever one, those 2 guys there, no matter how you want to do it. Then I'm going to go Reese Robinette in the 6th spot playing first base. I'm going to go Micah New in the 7th spot playing center field. So we've gone right, left throughout the entire lineup here. Then I'm going to go Nolan Souza hitting 8th and playing third base. And then in the 9th spot, I'm going to go with Carson Brumbaugh playing shortstop. And so we're going to go right, left, all the way down the lineup. Now, I would have Carter Rudenbar as my number 1 pinch hit option off the bench. In fact, if Carson Brumbaugh's spot comes up in like the 6th or 7th inning and, it's a huge spot, I would like that. But the reason I'm keeping Brumbaugh in there is because, one, Arkansas has been playing disgusting defense here lately, and so I would value his defense as short. Now, he has not played great defense in his last few outings, and I think Dave kind of spoke about that publicly and said he feels like he's maybe taking his hitting struggles to the plate, which I think there's definitely something to that. But yeah, I would definitely give Brumbaugh another shot in there. I'm not ready to give up on him. One, big picture, like Carson Brumbaugh's got a lot of baseball in front of him, and he's going to play some good baseball at some point or another. It might not be this year. We shall see. But I'd probably give him another shot before I gave Pompey another shot. But that's just me. And honestly, I think in all 3 games, like, you're going to see a different lineup. You will see Pompey get in there for sure. Let's see. Arkansas says, my biggest concern with the team is they currently rank 123rd in the country in fielding percentage, have seen far too many errors this year already. Yeah, at this stage last year is actually unreal. Because I think it was maybe the opening weekend that Arkansas played against Washington State last year. They looked okay. Like, they made like 2 or 3 errors, and it was like, oh man, is this going to be a team that's worse defensively? And then from there, they just stopped making mistakes. Going into SEC play last year, Arkansas had only committed 6 errors as a team, which, matter of fact, let me pull that up just to make sure I'm not BSing here. This is last year's numbers. Yeah, they had only made 6 errors, had a fielding percentage of .989. This year, that's 16 errors, .974. Now, historically, Dave Van Horn teams always kind of figured out defensively. Every team over the last decade has just gotten better and better throughout the year defensively, except for last year's team, which, their last inning of the season was their worst inning of the season. But it is, that is definitely a big concern to me, because I think the identity of this team is no doubt about it going to be more on the defensive pitching side. And I think they have the arms. I think they have the depth. I think they have the frontline starters. I think they have the stuff. They've got righties. They've got lefties. They've got guys that throw 98, guys that throw 89. Everything in between. Like, there is really nothing Arkansas doesn't have from a pitching staff standpoint. But, the defense has to be better, man, especially if you're going to be dependent on winning these 3-2 games, man. It's going to be crazy. Gage says, could you imagine Gibbler, Wiggins, and Kersher as starters next year? Yeah, that is very interesting. I mean, the Wiggins aspect of that is certainly very interesting. We would love to see that. And I think Wiggins is like, knock on wood, I think Wiggins is going to pitch this season. I think he's going to pitch this season, whether that's in May, maybe he comes back for late May, like maybe he throws an inning in the SEC tournament, then he's kind of like available in the NCAA tournament, something like that. It's not going to be a crazy role. I think he is going to pitch for Arkansas down the stretch. I think Gibbler going into next year is almost certainly going to be one of those guys that you're like building the pitching staff around. Kersher is someone they've definitely talked about. Dave has brought it up multiple times that they think they could build him up as a starter, and that's certainly something I wouldn't be crazy. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy for them to explore. But give me Mark Brissy, man. Give me Mark Brissy, who is not starting for Arkansas right now. He's just kind of working out of the bullpen, and he's going to continue to do that. I think Mark Brissy has the command, has the mentality. Also, I just think, we haven't seen him be stretched out too much, but I just think he's got the maturity at this early stage in his career. I think this time next year he'd be like a legit multi-inning relief option. But right now for this year, I think they should limit Kersher to just maybe 1-2 innings max per outing, and really not even mess around too much with that. He certainly has the stuff to be a starter, but I'm good if they kind of just work him up. I think his destiny professionally is going to be as a reliever, and so I won't be too offended if they don't work Kersher into that weekend rotation. Not a burner says Carson was super uncharacteristic these last few games in the field. Disappointing to see him slightly better at the plate and then immediately throwing the ball over the field. Yeah, I would agree. It was a little bit weird, and I'm glad you said uncharacteristic, because I would agree with that. Like, I think that he clearly, the confidence has been shaken a little bit, which, anytime you face adversity in life, your confidence gets shaken up a little bit. And we've seen this happen with a lot of freshmen, man. And so, I think that's something that certainly you got to get cleaned up, or you're just not going to play. Like, you're like, it's normal to go through adversity. It's normal to kind of go through your highs and lows, but like, if you're not responding well to that adversity, then we genuinely cannot play you. And so I'm sure he knows that. I mean, listen, Carson Brumbaugh, I've said it a few times now, but like, his dad played in the big leagues. His brother is playing in the SEC right now at Oklahoma. We'll get a look at him later in the year. He's playing at a high level. He's been groomed his entire life getting ready to play high level baseball. He gets it. He understands what is being asked of him, but it's a little bit easier than said than done sometimes. And he's a young kid. I like I said, I don't know what it's going to look like this year in terms of his role and whether or not it's going to really end up being him in the everyday lineup every day. I really don't know. I would not recommend, and I know that's not what you're saying, Bids, and I would not recommend for anybody to just dump your Carson Brumbaugh stock. I would strongly advise against it if I were your financial advisor, mostly just because he's a young kid who's super talented, who, just kind of figuring out how to play baseball at a high level, man. Same thing that Ryder Helfrich went through as a freshman. I mean, Ryder Helfrich hit 179 his freshman year at Arkansas. And he also went through these ups and downs of facing adversity for the first time and all that. And it would have been very easy to give up on Ryder Helfrich after his first year. And thank God we didn't do that. Let's see. Butcher Boy says, hide and watch. Brissy is going to be a Gage Wood clone. Maybe not as good, but not far away. No, I like that, man. I like that. And then the boy says, Carson's just in his head. Long-term, he's a stud. I rambled a little bit. This is exactly how I feel. And, I think that's the most frustrating part about baseball. And you know how people always say, oh, that's just baseball, and that's kind of a little bit of a cop-out. But the thing about baseball is you have to be able to look at results, accept them, move on. And you can't say, oh, well, these results happen in this game and expect that. Like, it's like you don't, even if you have a great game, you don't get to carry that into the next game and just assume that's just how it's going to be every single time. When you have someone that has poor results, you can't just assume that's going to be the case no matter what. And so what we try to do on this show is we try to look at this through the most nuanced lens possible of what has these guys done in their career? What have they done in scrimmages behind closed doors? What have they done in games? What have they done in the SEC? What do they do against right-handed pitching? What do they do against left-handed pitching? What does the coaching staff think of them? What is, all these different pieces. And so it is, I get it when a guy's struggling and he's hitting 150. It's like, oh yeah, get this guy out of here. Let's never see him again. But it's hard, man. It's hard to find these guys. And I think that's the most disappointing part about this year's start to the season is just, it's always tough. Like if Arkansas ends up going to Omaha or not going to Omaha, that's going to be the journey that we'll figure out. What you don't want is to have a year where you just feel like you didn't, live up to what you're capable of, which in 2024, I think you could definitely make that argument, but it's like, I think that was just a pretty good Arkansas team, honestly, that actually overachieved in the regular season. Like, I actually don't think it was like a crime that they didn't go to Omaha. I don't think that team was Omaha good. Just like in 2023 when they lost to TCU. I don't think they were better than TCU. Like, I don't think they deserve to advance there. What you don't want to have is us to look back at this season and be like, oh, man, that guy didn't live up to it. That guy didn't live up to it. That guy didn't live up to it. And, man, we just didn't quite get all these things to ride together, man. And again, that's been the most frustrating part. But the beauty of it is there's always a next game. There's always a tomorrow. And there's always something to move on and look forward to. And so I'm looking forward to this series this weekend. And we're going to break it all down tomorrow with our guy Cameron, get into our little game of what we like to play each week. In terms of like how I feel moving in, man, I think Arkansas has got a chance to win this series. It's going to be freaking hard. And the most disappointing, the scariest part about it is that Arkansas has been so good as a pitching staff. Mississippi State's going to be the best lineup they faced, without a doubt. Like, I don't even think that's going to definitely, you're going to have to face them multiple times. Like, you can maybe say, oh, maybe one of those teams in Arlington had a pretty good lineup, but game to game to game, Arkansas has not faced 3 straight games against this high level of a lineup yet this season. And so we're going to find out a lot about this pitching staff. I have a lot of confidence in this pitching staff. So it's actually not inconceivable for me that they would perform pretty well against Mississippi State, especially because Mississippi State hadn't faced the pitching staff like Arkansas and definitely hadn't faced a staff like Arkansas 3 days in a row. Now, they faced a really good UCLA team who's got a good pitching staff. They faced a good Southern Miss team who's got a pretty good pitching staff. They didn't face those teams 3 games in a row on a weekend the way that they're about to face Arkansas. And so it's going to be very interesting to see like kind of where they, do they rise to the occasion? Does Arkansas rise to the occasion? Do we get any type of spark out of this lineup? Like, what's that going to look like? One thing, I know I've been sunshine pumping a lot here. One thing that I want to actually get on y'all's radar real quick, I'm going to pull up these stats again from last year. And I want you to look very closely. You see, these are the pitching stats. This is the season stats for Arkansas last year. Look at Colin Fisher's name right down there. You see Colin Fisher's name. Now, he'd only thrown 11 innings. Wasn't that crazy of a sample size, but he had thrown 11 innings, and he had an ERA under 1, 16 strikeouts, 2 walks, opponents hitting 158 against him. Colin Fisher, last year as a sophomore, was dominant against non-conference competition. And if you go back to 2024, when he had just started his career, 1.26 ERA, 14.1 innings, 19 strikeouts, 3 walks. Now here we are this year, 1.17 ERA, 23 innings, 30 strikeouts, 3 walks. Now he's obviously thrown more innings this year than he's thrown in any of these years. But Colin Fisher's got a lot to prove in terms of SEC play, in terms of facing really good lineups and, getting through them multiple times. And I'm not trying to be, disrespectful or knock the guy, but like Colin Fisher has not been helpful for Arkansas in SEC games either of the last 2 years. Now he's older, he's better, he's now in a much more prominent role. I think this offseason was huge for him, no doubt about it. I think he's much more equipped to deal with SEC lineups right now than he was in those last 2 years, but has not, and we've seen him dominate non-conference competition before. And so it'd be one thing to say, oh, well, of course he's going to be better. Look at what he's done this year. What he's done this year is not terribly dissimilar from what he did last year or what he did as a freshman in 2024. But in both of those years, we got to SEC play. All of a sudden, it was harder for him to get guys out, and he wound up not being a factor at all. Now, he also got hurt as a freshman, and he was still serving as the midweek starter, doing okay so far. But I'm not saying, hey, you should be worried about Colin Fisher going into the weekend, but I think a lot of people right now are very of the belief that like Colin Fisher's a stud and we know we can count on him and Gabe Gackle sucks. And I just think that's an interesting way to view it based on the trends that we've seen in both those guys' careers. Also, of course, Hunter Dietz has a lot to prove this weekend. We have not seen him start a game against SEC competition. He's been getting it rolling here the last couple of weeks, but a little bit different when you're facing facing the big boys a little bit. And so while that makes me nervous, where it's like, oh man, how are these guys going to fare? That also fires me the hell up, where I'm like, man, how cool would it be if Hunter Dietz, he's got an opportunity on Saturday to show us something, to show us what he's all about, show us what he's really capable of. And same for Colin Fisher, man. I'm sure he's thought about it. I'm sure he's like, man, I remember my last time being in an SEC game in Ole Miss, and they absolutely shelled me. And they had to pull me out of the game before I blew it, too bad. Like, and I remember he was at Auburn as a freshman, got completely shelled, completely deer in the headlights out there. I'm sure he's thought about those moments a lot. And I'm sure they fueled him a lot this offseason of like, I'm going to be ready for my moment when I get that opportunity now. Same for Hunter Dietz. I'm sure he's been throwing a lot this offseason thinking about this very moment. I got to be ready when I get out there on the mound in the SEC. And last thing I'll say about Gackle, because I know I defended him a lot here. If you know anything about Gabe Gackle, you know that dude is a psycho competitor, like truly psycho competitor. He gave up a home run in the World Series last year to Jared Jones, and it was just like a solo home run. And I think it was like maybe 5-4, and that tied up the game or whatever. And Gackle comes to the dugout and starts like throwing his glove around, knocking over Gatorade, screaming. Thank God they don't have Gabe Gackle mic'd up while he's on the mound, because that dude will shout some obscenities now. But he's an absolute like relentless competitor. And that's served him well in the SEC, closing games, coming in the fourth inning and finish it out like he did against Texas A&M last year, coming into a College World Series game against LSU, like that has served him very well in some of these situations. And is it a little bit different as a reliever and a starter? Absolutely. But I think if you don't think that Gackle is waking up every day, like chomping at the bit to shut everyone up and shove against an SEC lineup, then, I can put you at ease because I promise you he is. Now, it doesn't guarantee that he's going to be great on Friday, and I definitely want to see the stuff look a little bit better. But I think this team, for as much as we talk about their mental fortitude and, their competitiveness or whatever, it's in there. There's definitely a lot of these guys that are high-level, one, just players, but also competitors. And I know it's easy sometimes when they don't play well to say, "Oh, see, these guys don't care. They don't really, they're not really fighting." These guys care, man. And whether they win or not this weekend, it's not going to be because they don't care. I can promise you that. And so we shall see, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. This was a lot of fun, and I'm making sure. Let me make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Yeah, no, did not miss any super chats. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, though. Appreciate you for being patient while I went and grabbed my groceries earlier. And I appreciate you for not making too much fun of me for being completely out of breath whenever I'd rejoin the stream. But seriously, it's always fun talking baseball. And this honestly wasn't as bad as I thought it might be. But appreciate you guys for real. And we'll be back tomorrow to preview the Mississippi State series in its entirety. Looking forward to breaking down the Bulldogs and seeing how Arkansas stacks up. And really, I'm excited to get a bomb this weekend, man. It's gonna be tense. It's gonna be nerve-wracking. It's gonna be anxiety-inducing. But that's what the SEC is, man. That's what high-level baseball is all about. And we'll see if the pressure makes diamonds or if it bursts pipes. But appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. Always supporting the show. Y'all have a great day, and we will see you